The iron chains rattled against stone as the Apache healer's breath came shallow in the cave's darkness. For 7 days, Wólhózhŭ had endured his imprisonment, abandoned by enemies who feared his medicine songs. Miles away, Farmer Tomás Vicente wiped sweat from his brow, unaware that the strange dreams pulling him toward the western canyons would forever alter his existence. The territory of New Mexico, 1867, a land where blood feuds ran as deep as the arroyos, cutting through red earth, where a man's word was his bond, and ancient spirits still walked among the living. Neither man could have foreseen how their paths would cross, nor how one quiet revelation would unravel decades of carefully guarded secrets. What terrible price awaits when a man discovers everything he believed about himself was a lie. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Tomás Vicente rose before dawn, his routine as predictable as the sun's arc across the New Mexico sky. His adobe farmhouse stood alone on the edge of a shallow valley, 5 acres of hard-won crops stretching before it. The land wasn't much, but it was his, or so he believed. He splashed cold water on his face from the basin, feeling the familiar weight of the wooden cross against his chest. The simple pendant, hanging from a leather cord, was his oldest possession. His fingers found it as they did each morning, tracing the intricate designs that seemed too precise for a simple farmer's trinket. "My mother's last gift," he murmured to himself, though his memories of her face had faded to almost nothing. Sometimes he wondered if the few images he retained, dark eyes, a gentle touch, belonged to his actual mother or were fabricated from years of longing. The cross felt particularly heavy this morning, as it had for weeks now. Ever since the dreams began, Tomás prepared a simple breakfast of cornmeal porridge, eating alone at his rough-hewn table. His eyes kept drifting to the western window, toward the distant canyons that had begun invading his sleep. Each night they called to him more urgently, dreams of stone passages, rattling metal, and a voice speaking words he couldn't understand, but somehow recognized. "Nonsense," he said aloud, his voice startling in the quiet house. "A man follows the plough, not dreams." Yet the dreams persisted, and with them came a strange restlessness he couldn't shake. In town, later that day, Tomás delivered a sack of his early potatoes to Widow Sandoval, who always paid fair prices and asked fewer questions than most. The settlement of Las Cruces was modest but growing, a collection of adobe buildings, wooden storefronts, and canvas-topped wagons belonging to recent arrivals. "You look tired, Señor Vicente," the widow observed, counting coins into his palm. "Not sleeping well?" "Well enough," he replied, not wishing to speak of the dreams. People in town respected him for his quiet ways and his knowledge of plants, which had helped many through fevers and injuries. To speak of mystical visions would only invite suspicion. As he secured his supplies in his pack mule's saddlebags, a familiar voice called out, "Tomás, a moment, if you please." Father Joaquin approached, his black cassock gathering dust from the street. The aging priest had been Tomás's first friend when he arrived in the territory 5 years earlier. "You've been avoiding Sunday Mass," the priest said, though his tone held more concern than accusation. "The crops need tending, Father. And your spirit, does it not need tending as well?" The priest studied him with knowing eyes. "Something troubles you, my son." Tomás's hand unconsciously rose to touch the wooden cross beneath his shirt. Father Joaquin's gaze followed the movement. "That cross you wear, you've never asked about the symbols carved upon it." Tomás frowned. "They're just decorations." "Perhaps." The priest's expression suggested otherwise. "Or perhaps there's something you're not yet ready to understand." A chill ran through Tomás, despite the warm spring air. "What do you know of my cross, Father?" "Only that it's not Spanish workmanship, nor Mexican." Father Joaquin placed a weathered hand on Tomás's shoulder. "Some mysteries reveal themselves only when we're prepared to face them." The priest departed, leaving Tomás with an unsettled feeling that followed him all the way home. That night, the dreams came again, more vivid than before. A cave opening, the sound of chains, a man's weakening voice. And beyond it all, the sense that something fundamental was shifting in the world, like earth trembling before a landslide. When he woke just before dawn, Tomás knew he could no longer ignore the call. Whatever waited in the western canyons would continue haunting him until he faced it. He packed provisions for 3 days, strapped his rifle across his back, and saddled his horse as the first light broke over the mountains. It was time to follow the dreams. 7 days earlier, Wólhózhŭ had been gathering sacred herbs in the shadow of the Thunder Mountains. Known among his people as Healer of Dawn, he was the most respected medicine man of the Chiricahua band. His power came not from strength of arms, but from his connection to the spirits that dwelled in every rock, tree, and creature across the ancestral lands. Now he sat in darkness, iron manacles cutting into his wrists and ankles. The cave that held him prisoner was once a place of power where he conducted healing ceremonies. Black Knife had chosen this location deliberately, a final insult to the healer who had opposed his rise to influence. Wólhózhŭ shifted against the cold stone wall, his parched lips forming silent prayers. His medicine pouch, a small leather bag adorned with porcupine quills and eagle feathers, lay just beyond his reach where Black Knife had tossed it. Inside were the sacred herbs, stones and bones that amplified his connection to the spirit world. Without them, his strength ebbed like water into sand. "The spirit's still here," he whispered in his native tongue, "though my voice grows weak." The ambush had come during a healing ceremony for a child struck with fever. Black Knife and his warriors had waited until Wólhózhŭ was deep in trance before attacking. They had not killed him, a direct violation of tribal law that even Black Knife dared not commit. Instead, they chose a crueler fate, chaining him in the sacred cave as an offering to whatever dark forces would claim him. "Your medicine songs weaken our people," Black Knife had spat as the chains were secured. "Your talk of peace with the White Eyes will leave our children with no lands, no honor." Wólhózhŭ had not responded. The spirits had shown him that conflict between their people and the settlers would bring only suffering. But Black Knife saw any compromise as weakness, any dialogue as betrayal. As day faded to night and back again, Wólhózhŭ conserved his strength. He drank the meager moisture that condensed on the cave walls and slipped into shallow trances. To dull the pain of his wounds, his people would be searching, but Black Knife would have hidden the trail well. On the 3rd day of his imprisonment, something peculiar happened. In a moment of delirium, Wólhózhŭ saw a vision of a man approaching. The cave, not Apache, but not quite a white settler either. A man between worlds, with a face that stirred ancient memories. "The lost son returns," he murmured. Words from a prophecy spoken decades ago by his own teacher. By the 7th day, Wólhózhŭ's connection to the physical world had grown tenuous. Yet, remarkably, his spiritual sight had sharpened. He could see beyond the cave walls to the sagebrush stirring in the wind, could hear the coyotes passing silently a mile away. And he sensed someone approaching, the man from his vision, now made real. With great effort, Wólhózhŭ reached toward his medicine pouch. His fingers fell inches short. The small leather bag contained more than just healing herbs and sacred stones. Hidden in a secret pocket was a smooth stone pendant bearing markings identical to those on a certain wooden cross, the mark of Chief Running Water, whose infant son had been taken during a raid 25 years ago. The chief had died believing his bloodline ended with that loss, but Wólhózhŭ had seen the truth in his medicine dreams. The son lived, raised among strangers, unaware of his heritage. The stone pendant was the proof that would be needed when, if, the lost son ever returned. Now, as bootsteps approached the cave entrance, Wólhózhŭ felt a surge of recognition that transcended his physical weakness. The lost son was coming, drawn by forces he couldn't understand. And if the healer lived long enough to reveal the truth, everything would change for their people. Wólhózhŭ rattled his chains, summoning his last reserves of strength. He would be heard. He would survive. The ancestors demanded it. Tomás rode until midday, following no trail but the persistent tug in his chest. The western canyons were dangerous territory, disputed land where Apache bands still moved freely and settlers ventured at their peril. Each rise he crested made him question his sanity. What reasonable man follows dreams into Apache lands? Yet he continued, drawn onward by something beyond reason. By early afternoon, his horse grew skittish, refusing to proceed up a narrow wash between towering sandstone walls. Tomás dismounted, securing the animal to a stunted juniper. "I won't be long," he promised, though he had no way of knowing if it was true. On foot he noticed details his distracted mind had missed from horseback. A clump of sagebrush stirred oddly in the still air, as if beckoning. Nearby, dark stains speckled. The sand, old blood. Broken arrow shafts lay half-buried, signs of struggle. The sagebrush moved again, though no wind blew. Tomás approached cautiously, crouching to examine the plant. Its pungent scent filled his nostrils, strangely comforting. Without thinking, he broke off a small branch and tucked it into his shirt pocket. "Grandfather Sagebrush shows the way," he murmured, then froze. The words had come unbidden, in a language he didn't recognize yet somehow understood. Following the direction the sagebrush had indicated, Tomás discovered a narrow path winding between boulders. It led upward toward a sheer cliff face, where a dark opening gaped like a wound in the red stone. As he approached the cave entrance, an unmistakable sound reached his ears, the clink of metal against stone. Chains, just like in his dreams. Tomás's hand moved to his rifle, but some instinct told him it wouldn't be needed. He called out instead, his voice echoing against the canyon walls. "Hello? Is someone there?" Silence answered him. Then, faintly, a rattling of chains. The cave entrance was low, forcing Tomás to duck as he entered. Darkness enveloped him and he paused, allowing his eyes to adjust. The air smelled of dust and something else, medicinal herbs and human suffering. "I mean no harm," he said, squinting into the gloom. A hoarse voice replied in broken Spanish. "Water, please." As his vision adapted to the darkness, Tomás made out a figure slumped against the far wall. An Apache man, gray-streaked hair falling across his face, sat with wrists and ankles bound by heavy iron chains, anchored to metal spikes driven into the stone floor. Tomás approached slowly, uncorking his canteen. The man's condition shocked him. Dried blood caked the prisoner's wrists where the manacles had rubbed the skin raw. His lips were cracked, his cheekbones sharp with dehydration. Kneeling, Tomás held the canteen to the man's mouth, supporting his head as he drank in small, careful sips. "Gracias," the Apache man whispered, studying Tomás with unexpected intensity. "You came. Who did this to you?" Tomás asked, examining the chains. They were military grade, likely stolen from an army outpost. "Enemies, those who fear change." The man's eyes never left Tomás's face. "You have his features." Whose features? But the Apache man closed his eyes, conserving strength. Tomás noticed a small leather pouch lying just beyond the prisoner's reach. He retrieved it, recognizing it as a medicine bag, similar to those he'd seen worn by tribal healers who occasionally traded with settlers. "Yours?" he asked, holding it up. The man's eyes flew open, a surge of energy animating his weakened body. "My medicine, please." Tomás placed the pouch in the man's bound hands. The Apache clutched it to his chest, murmuring words in his native tongue. "I am Tomás Vicente," he said, feeling a strange need to introduce himself. The prisoner nodded slowly. "I am called Wólhózhŭ, Healer of Dawn." His gaze intensified. "You are far from your farm, Tomás Vicente." A chill ran through Tomás. "How do you know I'm a farmer?" The Apache man smiled faintly. "The spirits have shown me many things about you, more than you know about yourself." Outside, a cloud passed over the sun, throwing the canyon into momentary shadow. Tomás felt the wooden cross against his chest grow suddenly warm, as if responding to the healer's words. Tomás examined the heavy chains binding Wólhózhŭ. They were secured with padlocks. Military issue. Too sturdy to break without proper tools. "I need to free you," he said, "but these chains—" Wólhózhŭ gestured weakly toward the cave entrance. "Your horse carries tools." Tomás nodded. "I have a hammer, some farming implements. I'll return quickly." Outside, the sun had begun its descent toward the western horizon. Tomás hurried back to his horse, aware that darkness in the canyon would make their situation more dangerous. From his saddlebag, he retrieved a carpenter's hammer, a simple tool with a solid iron head and wooden handle, worn smooth from years of use. He'd built his farmhouse with this hammer, driven every nail himself. When he returned to the cave, Wólhózhŭ had managed to sit more upright, his medicine pouch open before him. The healer's fingers moved methodically through its contents. Various herbs, small stones, what appeared to be animal bones and feathers. "The locks are too strong for a hammer," Tomás said, kneeling beside him. Wólhózhŭ looked up. "Not the locks, the anchors." He pointed to where the chains were secured to the cave floor. "Stone will yield before iron." Tomás examined the metal spikes driven into the rock. The healer was right. The surrounding stone showed cracks. With enough force, the anchors might pull free. He positioned the hammer, ready to strike. Before swinging, a strange impulse made him pause. "Should I say something first?" he asked, feeling foolish, even as the words left his mouth. Wólhózhŭ's expression shifted to one of surprise, then knowing interest. "What would you say to the stone?" "I don't know." Tomás shook his head. "It just felt necessary." "Then speak. What feels right?" Tomás raised the hammer again. Without understanding why, words formed on his lips. Words in a language he had never spoken but somehow knew. "Thunder mountains, lend me your strength. Sacred stone, release what is not yours to hold." The words hung in the air between them. Wólhózhŭ's eyes widened. Tomás brought the hammer down with all his strength. The stone around the first anchor cracked loudly, fragments scattering across the cave floor. 3 more powerful blows, and the spike pulled free, releasing one of Wólhózhŭ's ankle chains. "Those words," the healer said, watching intently as Tomás moved to the next anchor. "Where did you learn them?" "I don't know," Tomás admitted, positioning his hammer. "They just came to me." Again he spoke the phrase, and again the stone yielded more easily than it should have. One by one, the anchors broke free until only the wrist chains remained. Tomás worked feverishly, aware of the fading light. Each time he spoke the words to the Thunder Mountains, the hammer seemed to strike with greater force than his arms alone could generate. When the final anchor broke loose, he sat back, breathing heavily. "You are free," he said. Wólhózhŭ rubbed his raw wrists, studying Tomás with an expression of wonder and confirmation. "The Thunder Mountains. They are sacred to my people. Few outsiders know their true name." "I've never heard of them," Tomás said. "Yet you called to them in perfect Chiricahua." The healer's voice strengthened. "And they answered you." Tomás stared at the hammer in his hands, suddenly uncertain. "We should leave this place. Whoever did this to you might return." Wólhózhŭ attempted to stand but stumbled. 7 days without food had left him too weak to walk unaided. "I'll help you," Tomás said, supporting the older man's weight. "My horse can carry us both a short distance." As they moved toward the cave entrance, Wólhózhŭ reached for the wall to steady himself. His fingers traced a faded pictograph, a lightning bolt striking a mountain peak. "The old ones knew," he murmured. "They painted signs to mark the way." "The way to what?" Tomás asked. The healer's eyes met his. "The way home, lost son." Something in those words resonated in Tomás's chest, like the echo of a drum beaten long ago. The wooden cross beneath his shirt grew warm again, and with it came a sense of recognition he couldn't explain or deny. Dusk settled over the canyons as Tomás helped Wólhózhŭ onto the horse. The animal snorted nervously at the unfamiliar. Sent, but calmed under Tomás's hand. "We can't return to my farm tonight," Tomás said, leading the horse carefully down the narrow path. "Where can we go?" Wólhózhŭ, clinging weakly to the saddle horn, gestured southeast. "There is a place, 3 miles, hidden from enemies." Tomás hesitated. Deeper into Apache territory meant greater danger for him, yet returning toward settled land risked encountering whoever had imprisoned the healer. He made his decision. "Guide me." They traveled in silence as darkness fell. Wólhózhŭ occasionally murmured directions, leading them through passages in the rock invisible to Tomás's eyes until they were upon them. The healer seemed to navigate. By stars and shadows, by scents and sounds Tomás couldn't perceive. "How much further?" Tomás asked after an hour of slow progress. "Listen," Wólhózhŭ replied. Tomás strained his ears. Faintly he detected a sound like gentle rainfall, though the sky remained clear and star-filled. "Water," he said. Wólhózhŭ nodded. "The healing springs, sacred to my people for generations." They descended into a small, hidden valley where cottonwoods stood sentinel around a series of tiered pools. Water bubbled from the rocky hillside, cascading from one limestone basin to the next, steaming slightly in the cool night air. "Warm springs," Tomás said in wonder. He had heard rumors of such places but never seen one. "The earth's blood," Wólhózhŭ confirmed. "It carries medicine." Tomás helped the healer dismount and supported him to the lowest pool. The water glowed faintly in the moonlight, minerals creating a bluish luminescence along the edges. "You know this place," Wólhózhŭ said, studying Tomás's face. "It wasn't a question. I've never been here before," Tomás replied. "Yet your eyes recognize it." Tomás couldn't deny the strange familiarity washing over him. Something about the arrangement of the pools, the specific scent of the mineral water mixed with cottonwood sap, stirred memories he couldn't possibly possess. Wólhózhŭ knelt painfully at the pool's edge. "Help me into the water. It will begin the healing." Tomás removed the healer's tattered shirt, wincing at the bruises and cuts beneath. He supported Wólhózhŭ as the older man eased into the warm water with a soft groan of relief. "You should join me," the healer said. "The journey ahead requires strength." "What journey?" Tomás asked, but found himself removing his boots and rolling up his trousers. He stepped into the pool, gasping as the warm mineral water enveloped his feet and calves. An unexpected tingling sensation spread upward through his body. Wólhózhŭ had submerged himself to the shoulders, his eyes closed in concentration. "Now we prepare the medicine." From his pouch, he withdrew several dried herbs and a small stone bowl. He placed the herbs in the bowl, then filled it with spring water. "Grind these with your fingers until they become paste." Tomás did as instructed, surprised at how quickly the herbs softened and melded together in the mineral-rich water. The resulting paste glowed with the same bluish tint as the springs. "Good," Wólhózhŭ said. "Now apply it to my wounds and to your own hands." Tomás hesitated only briefly before spreading the mixture on the healer's raw wrists and other visible injuries. The paste clung to the skin, continuing to emit its faint glow. He then rubbed the remainder into his own palms, which had blistered from wielding the hammer against the stone anchors. "Now we sing," Wólhózhŭ said. "I don't know any healing songs." The healer smiled faintly. "Listen with your blood, not your ears." Wólhózhŭ began a low, rhythmic chant that echoed strangely against the rock walls surrounding the springs. After several repetitions, Tomás felt the melody catch in his throat, as familiar as a childhood lullaby. Without conscious decision, he joined the chant, his voice harmonizing perfectly with the healer's. In that moment, beneath stars his ancestors had named centuries before, Tomás Vicente sang healing songs in a language his conscious mind had never learned. Dawn broke over the hidden valley, bathing the healing springs in golden light. Tomás woke with a start, momentarily disoriented. He had slept on a bed of cottonwood leaves beside the lowest pool, exhaustion claiming him after the healing ritual. Wólhózhŭ sat cross-legged nearby, looking remarkably improved. The herbs and mineral waters had worked with surprising speed. Color had returned to his face, and many of his wounds had already begun to close. "You recover quickly," Tomás observed, sitting up. "The springs have strong medicine," the healer replied, "and you have strong medicine songs." Tomás frowned, remembering how naturally the unfamiliar chants had flowed from his lips. "I don't understand what happened last night." "You remembered," Wólhózhŭ said simply. "Your blood remembered what your mind has forgotten. You speak in riddles. I speak truth you are not yet ready to hear." The healer studied him thoughtfully. "Or perhaps you are. The spirits brought you to my prison. They guided your hammer. They gave you words of power." Tomás stood, suddenly uncomfortable. "I should check on the horse." "Running from truth will not make it less true, Tomás Vicente." Wólhózhŭ's voice stopped him. "Or should I call you by another name?" A strange weight settled in Tomás's chest. "What do you mean?" "Sit," the healer commanded. "It is time." Against his better judgment, Tomás sat again, facing Wólhózhŭ across the small space between them. "Look at your reflection in the water," the healer instructed. Tomás leaned over the still surface of the pool. The face that looked back was the one he knew. Sun-darkened skin, black hair, strong features that had always marked him as mestizo in the eyes of white settlers. "What do you see?" Wólhózhŭ asked. "My face. Look deeper. See what I see." Tomás stared at his reflection, uncertain what he was supposed to notice. Then Wólhózhŭ moved beside him, their faces side by side in the water's mirror. "Do you see it now?" the healer asked softly. "The shape of your brow, the line of your jaw, these are not Spanish features nor Mexican." Tomás pulled back from the water. "What are you saying?" "The wooden cross you wear," Wólhózhŭ said. "Show it to me." Hesitantly, Tomás withdrew the cross from beneath his shirt, lifting the leather cord over his head. The morning sun caught the intricate carvings on its surface, patterns he had always assumed were decorative. Wólhózhŭ took the cross with reverent hands, tracing the markings with his fingertip. "These are not Christian symbols, Tomás. These are the marks of Chief Running Water's bloodline." "I don't understand." 25 years ago, Wólhózhŭ began, reaching into his medicine pouch. "Mexican soldiers raided our winter camp. They killed many, including the chief's wife, and they took something precious, a baby boy, the chief's only son and heir." From the pouch, the healer withdrew a smooth stone pendant suspended on a sinew cord. He placed it beside the wooden cross. The markings matched perfectly. "This pendant belonged to Chief Running Water," Wólhózhŭ said. "Your father." Tomás stared at the matching symbols, a cold numbness spreading through his body. "No. My parents were Mexican. They died when I was young. I was raised by the Franciscan mission in Sonora." "Yes," Wólhózhŭ nodded. "After the soldiers took you, they delivered you to the mission. The monks raised you as one of their own, never telling you the truth of your origins." "This is madness," Tomás whispered, yet something deep within him resonated with the healer's words. The dreams, the strange knowledge of Apache words, the familiar feeling at the sacred springs. "Your Apache name," Wólhózhŭ continued gently, "is Nietzsche, who walks between worlds. Your father gave you this name at your birth ceremony, the night before the raid." Tomás reached for the wooden cross, his hand trembling. "How did this come to be made into a cross?" "The monks likely found it among your wrappings. Rather than discard a pagan symbol, they reshaped it to serve their god." Wólhózhŭ's voice held no bitterness, only sadness. "They could not know they were preserving the very proof of your heritage." Tomás closed his eyes, memories flooding. Through him, disconnected images of a woman's face, a campfire's glow, hands painting symbols on stone. Memories too early to be his. And yet they were. Tomás sat motionless, the wooden cross clutched in his palm, its familiar weight now laden with new meaning. The revelation of his birth echoed through him like thunder across distant mountains. "I need time," he finally said. "This is too much." Wólhózhŭ nodded. "Time is a luxury we may not have." "What do you mean?" The healer rose, moving with new strength after his night in the healing waters. "Come, see what I found while you slept." Tomás followed Wólhózhŭ to the edge of their small sanctuary. Just beyond the cottonwood grove, the healer pointed to tracks in the soft earth, moccasin prints, at least 4 different sizes, circling the perimeter of the springs before continuing eastward. "Black Knife's scouts," Wólhózhŭ explained. "They searched for us in the night." "Did they find this place?" "No. The springs are protected by old medicine. Those without the right bloodlines cannot see the entrance unless guided." Wólhózhŭ gestured to the narrow passage between rock formations. They passed within arm's reach, but saw only solid stone. Relief flickered across Tomás's face, quickly replaced by concern. "They'll return with more warriors." "Yes." And they left a message. Wólhózhŭ led him around the largest pool to a flat rock overlooking the valley. Placed prominently on its surface lay a war club, its handle carved from mesquite wood, its head a rounded stone, wrapped in rawhide and adorned with 3 hawk feathers. "Black Knife's personal weapon," the healer said grimly. "Left where I would." "Find it!" Tomás studied the club, noting the dark stains on its stone head. "Blood?" "The blood of my apprentice, who tried to prevent my capture." Wólhózhŭ's voice tightened. "This is a formal declaration of blood feud, not just against me, but against anyone who aids me, including me, especially you." The healer turned, to face him directly. "If Black Knife confirms who you truly are, the stakes become much higher. Your return threatens his ambitions." "How?" Tomás demanded. "I'm a farmer. I want nothing to do with tribal leadership. What you want matters little. As Running Water's only son, you have hereditary right to lead your father's band. Many would follow you out of respect for your bloodline, even after your long absence." Tomás paced the edge of the pool, agitation evident in every movement. "I have a farm, a life built on hidden truths," Wólhózhŭ replied softly. "Did you never wonder why you felt no true connection to your settler's existence? Why dreams called you to Apache lands?" The question struck too close to truths Tomás had long avoided. He had never felt rooted at his farm, despite 5 years of working the land. Always, there had been a restlessness in him, a sense of displacement. "What would you have me do?" he asked finally. "We must reach my people, those still loyal to your father's memory. They can protect us while we determine the next steps." "Where are they?" 3 days' journey north." Wólhózhŭ glanced at the sky. "But first, we should return to your farm." Tomás looked up, surprised. "Why?" "You need evidence beyond my word and matching symbols. And," the healer added pragmatically, "we need supplies for the journey." A flutter of movement caught their attention. A raven landed on a boulder nearby, its glossy feathers reflecting the morning sun. It cocked its head, regarding them with unsettling intelligence. "We're being watched," Wólhózhŭ said quietly. "Ravens are Black Knife's scouts. It's just a bird in this world, perhaps." The healer made a subtle gesture with his hand. The raven squawked and took flight, circling once before winging away southward. "Now he knows we're alive and together." Tomás stared after the bird. "How long until they find us?" "If we leave now, we may reach your farm by nightfall. They'll expect us to flee north toward my people, not south toward settler lands." Tomás nodded, decision crystallizing. "Then we go south. But know this, I'm not accepting anything yet. I need proof beyond symbols and stories." "The proof is in your blood," Wólhózhŭ said, "and in your dreams. But yes, at your farm you may find more concrete evidence. The spirits have prepared this path for many years." As they gathered their few possessions and prepared to depart, Tomás cast a final glance at Black Knife's war club. Its presence represented a line crossed, a declaration that peaceful resolution was no longer possible. Whatever the truth of his identity, he was now enmeshed in a conflict generations in the making. They traveled swiftly but cautiously, avoiding main trails and open ground. Wólhózhŭ, despite his recent imprisonment, moved with the silent efficiency of a lifetime spent in these lands. He taught Tomás to walk without disturbing stones or breaking twigs, to read subtle signs of passage that others had left. "Your body remembers," the healer observed when Tomás instinctively adjusted his movement to match Apache patterns. "The mind forgets, but the body holds wisdom." By dusk, the familiar silhouette of Tomás's adobe farmhouse appeared on the horizon. They approached from the west, using a stand of cottonwoods for cover as they surveyed the property. "Something's wrong," Tomás whispered. No smoke rose from the chimney, and his 2 goats were nowhere to be seen in their pen. Wólhózhŭ pointed to faint tracks leading to the house. "Visitors, 3, maybe 4. They waited until full darkness before approaching. The front door hung partially open, its wooden frame splintered near the latch. Inside, moonlight streaming through windows revealed chaos. Furniture overturned, Tomás's few possessions scattered across the packed earth floor. "Black Knife's men," Wólhózhŭ confirmed, examining a distinctive bootprint in spilled flour. Tomás lit a small oil lamp, its glow revealing the full extent of the destruction. "They were looking for something. For proof of your identity," the healer replied, "or for direction to where we might have gone." Tomás moved methodically through the 2-room house, assessing the damage and collecting useful items into a canvas sack: ammunition for his rifle, dried food, a second knife. "My documents were kept here," he said, showing Wólhózhŭ a small wooden box, now empty, its lock broken. "Land deed, letters of introduction from the mission, what little I had of my past." Wólhózhŭ frowned. "If they have your papers, they may learn which mission raised you." "The papers wouldn't reveal much," Tomás replied. "Just my Mexican name and the Franciscans who vouched for me." He paused, remembering something. "But there might be more." He moved to the corner of the main room where his narrow bed stood upended. Against the wall, writing it, he knelt and pried at one of the floorboards beneath. It came loose, revealing a small cavity. "My true valuables," he explained, withdrawing a cloth-wrapped bundle. "Too important to keep in an obvious box." Unwrapping the cloth revealed a packet of yellowed papers tied with faded red ribbon. Tomás spread them on the table, hands trembling slightly as he examined documents he had never fully understood. "These were given to me when I left the mission at 16, he explained. "The brothers said they were my history, but much is written in formal Spanish I couldn't read well." Wólhózhŭ leaned closer as Tomás carefully unfolded the brittle pages. The topmost document bore official seals and formal handwriting. "Certificate of guardianship," Tomás translated haltingly, "granted to the Franciscan mission of San Xavier del Bac for the Apache male child delivered by Captain Esteban Vargas of the Sonoran militia, January 1842. His finger traced the faded ink. "That would be when I was perhaps 1 year old." Beneath this lay another document, a military report detailing a raid on an Apache winter camp. Tomás read aloud, his voice growing tighter. "Camp of hostile Chief Running Water destroyed. 28 Apache killed. Chief's wife among the dead. Male infant recovered and remanded to mission authorities for Christian raising." Wólhózhŭ placed a hand on Tomás's shoulder as he continued reading. "Infant bore pagan symbols on clothing. Items preserved by order of Mission Father Domingo for future identification if clan should seek Christian reconciliation." The final page was different, written in a careful personal hand rather than official script. A letter from Father Domingo, himself addressed to Tomás. "My son, Tomás read, voice barely above a whisper. "If you read these words, you have reached manhood and left our care. Know that you came to us not by God's will, but by man's violence. The symbols on your cradle board marked you as child of a chief. I could not return you, but neither could I destroy the signs of your birth. May God and your ancestors both guide your path between worlds." Tomás set the letter down, a deep stillness settling over him. "It's true, then?" "Yes." Wólhózhŭ said softly, "You are Nightshade, son of running water." Outside, a coyote howled, a single mournful note that seemed to acknowledge a truth hidden for 25 years. They couldn't remain at the farm. Black Knife's men would return, perhaps with reinforcements. Tomás gathered essential supplies, while Wólhózhŭ erased signs of their presence. "Where do we go now?" Tomás asked as they prepared to depart under cover of darkness. "North," Wólhózhŭ replied, "but not directly. We must move as the deer moves, unpredictably, leaving false trails." They traveled through the night, Tomás leading his horse while Wólhózhŭ walked beside him. The healer seemed to navigate by stars alone, choosing paths invisible to Tomás's eyes until they were upon them. By dawn, they had reached a secluded mesa overlooking a vast expanse of desert. As pale light crept across the landscape, Wólhózhŭ found a sheltered overhang where they could rest unseen from below. "We should be safe here until nightfall," he said, easing himself onto a flat rock. Though stronger, the healer still bore the fatigue of his imprisonment. Tomás unsaddled his horse and spread their meager provisions. As they ate dried meat and cornmeal cakes, he found himself studying Wólhózhŭ with new eyes, not as a stranger, but as a connection to his true past. "Tell me about my father," he said abruptly. Wólhózhŭ looked up, a slight smile softening his weathered features. Running Water was a man of great vision. He could see paths others could not, both across the land and through time. "Was he a healer like you?" "No, but he respected the old ways, the medicine ways." Wólhózhŭ's gaze grew distant with memory. "He was first to recognize that conflict with the White Eyes would eventually destroy our people. He sought middle ground, ways to preserve our essence while adapting to changing times." "That made him enemies," Tomás guessed. "Yes, Black Knife's father led those who saw any compromise as weakness." Wólhózhŭ reached into his medicine pouch. "Before your father died, he gave me something to keep for you." From the pouch, he withdrew a single eagle feather, its shaft painted with red ochre symbols, its tip bound with sinew, and a single blue bead. "An eagle feather is given only to those who have earned great honor," Wólhózhŭ explained. "This was from your father's headdress. He asked me to save it for the day his son might return." He held out the feather to Tomás, who hesitated before accepting it. The moment his fingers closed around the shaft, an unexpected sensation washed through him, like remembering a forgotten dream. "I've seen this before," he whispered. "Yes, it hung above your cradle board." Wólhózhŭ watched him closely. "Your father placed it there to protect you and guide your dreams." Tomás turned the feather slowly, examining the painted symbols. "What do these mean?" "Protection, guidance, return." Wólhózhŭ pointed to each mark in turn. "The last symbol is your father's personal mark, the same one on your wooden cross and his pendant." Tomás sat in silence, absorbing this tangible connection to his true father. Finally he asked, "What am I supposed to do now? I know nothing of being Apache." "You know more than you realize," Wólhózhŭ replied. "I have watched you move, heard you speak words your conscious mind never learned. The knowledge sleeps within you. Then how do I awaken it?" "We begin now." Wólhózhŭ stood, motioning for Tomás to join him at the edge of their shelter. "First, you must learn to see properly again." Throughout that day, as they waited for darkness to resume their journey, Wólhózhŭ began Tomás's education. In Apache ways, he taught him to identify plants and their uses, to read subtle changes in wind and cloud patterns, to recognize animal signs that would be invisible to settler eyes. Tomás absorbed the knowledge with surprising ease, as if relearning, rather than learning anew. Words in Chiricahua came more readily to his tongue with each passing hour. By afternoon, he found himself instinctively using Apache gestures as he spoke. "The transition is beginning," Wólhózhŭ observed as Tomás correctly identified the age of rabbit tracks without instruction. Naiche emerges from behind Tomás Vicente. That evening, as they prepared to continue their journey, Tomás braided the eagle feather into his hair, a small act that felt momentous. In the fading light, he caught his reflection in his canteen's water and barely recognized himself. The face remained the same, but something in the eyes had changed, an awakening recognition, a spirit remembering itself. "Tonight," Wólhózhŭ said, "you will dream your first true Apache dream in 25 years. The ancestors have waited long to speak with you again. 3 days of cautious travel brought them to the abandoned mission San Lorenzo. Once a thriving outpost, it had been deserted years earlier after Apache raids forced the Franciscans to withdraw to larger settlements. Only the adobe chapel remained intact, its bell tower standing watch over crumbling outbuildings. "Why are we here?" Tomás asked as they approached through the overgrown orchard. "To meet someone who holds pieces of your past," Wólhózhŭ replied. "I sent word through the talking drums." "Father Joaquin," Tomás guessed, surprised. "How would you know him?" The healer smiled faintly. "There are men of faith among your people who still speak with men of faith among mine. Boundaries are more permeable than most believe." They tethered the horse in the orchard and approached the chapel cautiously. Wólhózhŭ went first, gesturing for Tomás to wait in the shadows. After a moment, he motioned him forward. Inside, sunlight filtered through holes in the roof, illuminating dust motes that danced above the broken altar. Father Joaquin sat on a wooden bench, his black cassock dusty from travel. He rose when Tomás entered, his weathered face revealing both. "Relief and concern, Tomás," he said. "Or should I call you Naiche now?" Tomás halted, startled. "You knew?" I suspected. The priest gestured for him to sit. "When you arrived in Las Cruces 5 years ago with letters from the Franciscans at San Xavier del Bac, I recognized the name of the mission. They were known for taking in Apache children during the conflicts. Why didn't you tell me?" "What good would it have done?" Father Joaquin asked gently. "You were building a life, and I wasn't certain, only suspicious from your features, your way of moving, the cross you wore." Wólhózhŭ had positioned himself near the door, watching for any approach. Father Joaquin acknowledged him with a respectful nod before turning. "Back to Tomás. When your friend's message reached me, I knew it was time for truth." He reached into his satchel and withdrew a leather-bound book. "This is my journal from my early years in the territory. I recorded everything, including rumors of a chief's son taken during a raid." He opened the journal to a marked page and handed it to Tomás. The faded ink recorded events from 1842, the year Tomás had been taken from his people. "Captain Vargas arrived today with militia from Sonora," Tomás read aloud. "They speak of a successful raid against hostile Apaches. God forgive me, but I find little Christian charity in their boasting. They claim to have destroyed Chief Running Water's band and taken his infant son as trophy. The child has been sent to the Franciscans at San Xavier. I pray the brothers will show more of Christ's love than these soldiers." Tomás looked up, finding it difficult to breathe. "You wrote this 25 years ago?" "Yes, long before I met you." Father Joaquin took back the journal. "When you arrived in Las Cruces, something in your face reminded me of this entry. I reviewed my writings and began to wonder. Why would the soldiers take a child instead of killing him?" Tomás asked, the brutal question emerging before he could temper it. Captain Vargas apparently believed taking the chief's son would break the spirit of any survivors. Father Joaquin's voice held controlled anger. He boasted it would be the ultimate victory, to have the Apache heir raised as a Christian Mexican. "Some men use faith as a weapon, Tomás. It is the deepest perversion of God's word." Wólhózhŭ spoke from his position by the door. "What else have you heard, Father? Of Black Knife and his faction?" They search for you both, the priest confirmed. Word has spread that the son of running water has returned. Some welcome this news, others fear it. The settlers, Tomás began, are divided, Father Joaquin interrupted. Some see opportunity for improved relations if a man who understands both worlds takes leadership. Others fear any strengthening of Apache power. He leaned forward earnestly. You must be careful, Tomás. You've become important to forces beyond yourself. I never wanted this, Tomás said. Few who are born to leadership seek it, Wólhózhŭ observed. Those who hunger for power are rarely worthy of it. A shadow passed the broken window. Father Joaquin tensed. You cannot stay. I've heard riders approaching from the south. Black knife? Wólhózhŭ asked sharply. Or militia? Either brings danger. The priest pressed the journal into Tomás's hands. Take this. It contains what I know of your history. May it help you find your path. They fled northward from the mission, pushing their horse hard across open country before seeking the concealment of a narrow canyon as dusk approached. Tomás carried Father Joaquin's journal inside his shirt, the leather binding pressing against his chest alongside the wooden cross, 2 records of his divided past. We're being followed, Wólhózhŭ said, glancing back at the lengthening shadows. At least 4 riders. Black knife? Yes. He would not trust this hunt to others. The canyon narrowed, its high walls blocking the fading sunlight. Weathered petroglyphs adorned the stone. Ancient handprints, spiral patterns, and stylized animal forms carved by ancestors centuries before. Sacred ground, Wólhózhŭ murmured. The old ones watched the stars from these heights. Tomás noted how easily he now understood such references. Each day with Wólhózhŭ had awakened more of his buried heritage. Apache words came naturally to his tongue. The ways of moving through the land silently returned to his muscles as if they had never been forgotten. The canyon twisted sharply, opening into a small box canyon, a natural fortress with high walls on 3 sides. Too late, Tomás recognized the tactical error. They had entered a dead end. Wólhózhŭ realized it simultaneously. We must turn back. But as they wheeled, the horse around, shadows detached themselves from the canyon walls ahead. 5 warriors blocked their escape, bows drawn and aimed. Black Knife stood at their center, his face painted for war, black diagonal stripes across copper skin, vermilion outlining his eyes. Wólhózhŭ, he called, his voice echoing against the stone walls. You escaped one prison only to find another. The healer stepped forward, positioning himself between the warriors and Tomás. This conflict brings no honor, Black Knife. The spirits do not favor your path. The spirits speak through me now, Black Knife replied. The old ways die with the old men who cling to them. His gaze shifted to Tomás. And who is this? A farmer who plays at being Apache. Tomás dismounted slowly, keeping his movements deliberate. I am Tomás Vicente, he said, then added in perfect Chiricahua, son of running water. A ripple of reaction passed through the warriors. Black Knife's eyes narrowed. Running Water's bloodline ended 25 years ago, he stated flatly. The child survived, Wólhózhŭ countered. Raised by the black robes, but Apache still. His blood remembers. Black Knife studied Tomás with new intensity. Show me proof, farmer. Any child can claim a chief's name. Without breaking eye contact, Tomás withdrew the wooden cross from beneath his shirt. Simultaneously, Wólhózhŭ produced the stone. Pendant. Even in the fading light, the matching symbols were unmistakable. The mark of Running Water's line, the healer announced, carried by his son into captivity, now returned to his people. The warriors murmured among themselves. Black Knife's hand tightened on his bow. Convenient marks, he spat, carved recently to support your claim. Father Joaquin's journal confirms it, Tomás replied, his voice steady. As do military records. From Sonora, I am Naiche. If you were truly Apache, Black Knife challenged, you would know our ways. Prove yourself, son of Running Water. Fight me as your father would have. Tomás hesitated only briefly. "I accept your challenge." Wólhózhŭ touched his arm in warning. "Black Knife does not fight with honor." "I must do this," Tomás replied, quietly. The warriors formed a loose circle. Black Knife handed his bow to one of his men and drew a knife from his belt. Tomás unsheathed his own blade, a simple farming tool against a weapon of war. They circled each other cautiously. Tomás felt an unexpected calmness descend, as if another's experience guided his movements. He recognized Black Knife's style, aggressive, overconfident, telegraphing his attacks with subtle shifts of weight. The first clash came swiftly. Black Knife lunged, his blade slicing air as Tomás sidestepped with a grace that surprised even himself. 3 more exchanges followed, each ending in stalemate. The warriors watched in growing silence, witnessing fighting skills no farmer should possess. "You move like an Apache," Black Knife acknowledged, circling again. "Perhaps there is truth in your claim." "There is no perhaps," Tomás replied. "I am my father's son." Black Knife's face hardened. "Then you die as he did," he signaled sharply. From the canyon rim above, a hidden archer loosed an arrow. Wólhózhŭ shouted warning, but too late. The missile struck him in the shoulder rather than Tomás, its impact driving him to his knees. "Coward!" Tomás cried, rushing to the healer's side. Black Knife smiled coldly. "The arrow's tip carries death, slow, painful death that no medicine can cure." He gestured to his warriors. "Take them both. The son of running water shall watch. His friend die, then follow him to the Shadowlands." Chaos erupted in the canyon. As Black Knife's warriors moved to seize them, Tomás's horse reared in panic, creating momentary confusion. Seizing the opportunity, Tomás half-dragged, half-carried Wólhózhŭ toward a narrow crevice in the canyon wall, a gap barely wide enough for a man to squeeze through. "Leave me," Wólhózhŭ gasped, the arrow shaft protruding from his shoulder. "Save yourself." "No," Tomás replied simply, pulling the healer into the crevice as arrows clattered against stone around them. The passage twisted unexpectedly, opening into a small cavern illuminated by fading light from an opening. High above, ancient handprints decorated the walls, the same sacred site where the Old Ones had watched the stars. Tomás eased Wólhózhŭ to the ground, examining the wound. The arrowhead was embedded deep, its shaft decorated with red and black bands. "The yach, mark of a poisoned weapon. Black snake venom," Wólhózhŭ confirmed, his breathing already labored, "mixed with desert toad secretions. Few survive." "You will," Tomás insisted, tearing strips from his shirt to staunch the bleeding. Outside, Black Knife's voice echoed against stone. "The passage is too narrow for warriors. Let them hide. The poison works quickly. By morning, we will collect 2 corpses." Footsteps retreated. Tomás knew Black Knife would position guards at the canyon entrance. There would be no escape tonight. "My medicine pouch," Wólhózhŭ whispered, gesturing weakly. Tomás retrieved it, opening the leather bag with reverent care. Inside, dried herbs, small bones, and colored stones nestled together, tools of the healer's art. "What do I do?" he asked. Wólhózhŭ's eyes were becoming unfocused, the poison already affecting his vision. "First, remove the arrow." Tomás examined the shaft. Breaking it would cause more damage. It would need to be pushed through completely. Working swiftly, he cut away Wólhózhŭ's shirt, exposing the wound. With a silent prayer to whatever spirits might be listening, he steadied the healer with one hand and pushed the arrow through with the other. Wólhózhŭ's muffled cry echoed in the small cavern. Blood flowed freely now, dark and ominous in the fading light. "The yellow flowers," the healer gasped. "Crush them, pack the wound." Tomás found the dried yarrow blossoms in the medicine pouch, crushing them between his fingers as instructed. The plant's sharp, medicinal scent filled the air as he packed the wound front and back. "Not enough," Wólhózhŭ murmured. "The poison spreads." The healer's skin had taken on a greyish tint, his pulse racing beneath Tomás's fingers. Death was approaching swiftly. "There must be something more," Tomás insisted, fear rising in his chest. Wólhózhŭ's eyes cleared momentarily. "There is, but you must find it yourself. The knowledge is in your blood. I don't know how to heal poison wounds. Your mother was a medicine woman before she was a chief's wife. Wólhózhŭ's voice was fading. Her knowledge is your birthright. Remember, the healer's eyes closed, his breathing growing more labored. Panic threatened to overwhelm Tomás, but he forced it down. Closing his own eyes, he tried to remember what he had never consciously known, his mother's healing ways. Unbidden, an image formed in his mind. Small hands gathering red clay from a riverbank, mixing it with specific herbs to draw poison from. Wounds. The vision was so clear he could smell the damp earth, feel the clay's texture between his fingers. His eyes snapped open. Clay, he whispered. I need red clay. Searching the cavern floor, Tomás found what he sought. A depression where rainwater had seeped through the ceiling, creating a small pocket of rust-colored clay. He gathered it carefully, returning to Wólhózhŭ's side. Working instinctively, he mixed the clay with crushed herbs from the medicine pouch, yarrow for bleeding, juniper for purification, and a small black root he somehow knew would counteract the specific poison. Spirits of earth and sky, he chanted in Chiricahua, the words coming from some deep ancestral memory. Draw the shadow from his blood, return light to his eyes. He applied the clay mixture to the wound, continuing the chant. As he worked, the cavern seemed to darken around them, though the light from above hadn't changed. Shadows gathered watching, ancestors perhaps, or merely his imagination stretched by fear and exhaustion. Through the night, Tomás fought for Wólhózhŭ's life. He refreshed the clay poultice when it dried, made the healer drink tiny sips of water infused with medicinal herbs, and continued the healing songs his conscious mind had never learned but his blood remembered. Near dawn, Wólhózhŭ's fever broke. His eyes opened, clear and focused once more. You remembered, he whispered. Not me, Tomás replied. My mother. I saw her hands, heard her voice guiding mine. Wólhózhŭ smiled faintly. The dead are never truly gone. They live in our blood, speak through our hands when need is greatest. They escaped the canyon at midday, using a narrow game trail that wound up the steep back wall, a path invisible to those who didn't know to look for it. Wólhózhŭ, though weakened, had recovered, enough to travel with Tomás's support. The sacred clay poultice had drawn the poison from his system, leaving him exhausted but alive. Black Knife's warriors, believing them trapped, had grown complacent in their watch. By the time their escape was discovered, Tomás and Wólhózhŭ had gained considerable distance, moving steadily northward through increasingly familiar Apache territory. We must reach my people before Black Knife can gather more warriors, Wólhózhŭ said, as they rested briefly in the shelter of a juniper grove. The news of your return will spread quickly. Will your people accept me? Tomás asked. A chief's son who speaks with a Mexican accent and knows little of their ways. Some will embrace you immediately for your bloodline alone. Others will be skeptical. Wólhózhŭ adjusted the fresh bandage on his shoulder. But after seeing you heal me, using knowledge no settler could possess, many doubts will fade. They traveled for 2 more days, avoiding open ground and main trails. Wólhózhŭ grew stronger with each passing hour, the color returning to his face, his steps more certain. On the morning of the 3rd day, he paused atop a rise, pointing to a distant valley where thin tendrils of smoke rose against the blue sky. My people, he said simply. As they approached the encampment, Tomás felt an unexpected tightness in his chest, a mixture of anticipation and fear. These were his people by blood, yet strangers by experience. What place could he truly claim among them? A young scout spotted them first, raising a cry that brought others running. Warriors approached cautiously, bows half-drawn until they recognized Wólhózhŭ. Exclamations of surprise and joy erupted as the healer was welcomed back. Many had believed him dead after his disappearance. Their welcome turned to wary curiosity as attention shifted to Tomás. He stood quietly, conscious of his mixed appearance, Apache features but settler clothing, his hair now worn in a more traditional style with the eagle feather prominently displayed. An elderly man stepped forward, his face deeply lined with age and experience. "Wólhózhŭ, you return to us with a stranger who wears Running Water's eagle feather. Explain this." "No stranger, Natan," the healer replied. "But Naiche, son of Running Water, returned to his people after 25 years among the settlers." Murmurs spread through the gathering crowd. The old man, evidently a person of authority, studied Tomás with sharp, assessing eyes. "Many would claim such a prestigious bloodline," he said. "What proof do you offer?" Wordlessly, Tomás produced the wooden cross and Father Joaquin's journal. Wólhózhŭ added the stone pendant with its matching symbols. As the items were passed among the tribal elders who had gathered, the murmurs grew louder. "These could be forgeries," a younger warrior objected. "Marks carved to match the old chief's sign." "There is more proof," Wólhózhŭ countered. "Naiche saved my life when Black Knife's poisoned arrow should have sent me to the Shadowlands. He used medicine knowledge that only Running Water's wife possessed, healing methods she would have taught only to her child." This revelation caused a greater stir. A medicine woman stepped forward, her white hair bound with leather strips adorned with small shells. "I helped birth Running Water's son," she announced, her voice strong despite her advanced age. "If this is truly Naiche, he bears a mark, a small crescent moon on his right shoulder blade, placed there by the spirits to mark his destiny." All eyes turned to Tomás. Without hesitation, he removed his shirt, turning to show his back. There, just as the old woman had described, was a crescent-shaped birthmark. The medicine woman approached, touching the mark with gnarled fingers. "It is him," she declared, her voice breaking. "The lost son has returned." As the reality of his identity settled over the gathering, Natan raised his arms for silence. "This matter affects all our people. The tribal council must convene to determine the truth and decide what it means for our future." He gestured toward the center of the encampment. "Tonight we light the council fire. The flames will illuminate truth and burn away deception. Until then, the one who calls himself Naiche will be our guest, neither prisoner nor proven leader." Tomás nodded his acceptance. "I seek only truth, not leadership." "Truth and leadership are often the same path," Natan replied, his weathered face unreadable, whether you walk it willingly or not. As twilight descended, the council fire was kindled in the center of the encampment. Unlike ordinary cooking fires, this flame was prepared with sacred rituals. Specific woods, arranged in precise patterns, blessed with prayers and offerings of tobacco, sage, and cedar. Tomás watched from the edge of the gathering as tribal members assembled, taking their places according to age, rank, and family affiliation. Wólhózhŭ had explained that the council fire was more than mere illumination. It was a living witness, a spiritual entity that revealed truth through its dancing patterns and the shadows it cast. "The fire sees into men's hearts," the healer had told him. "It burns brighter for truth, dims for falsehood." Now, seated beside Wólhózhŭ, Tomás faced the assembled council, 12 elders representing different family bands within the tribe. Natan presided, his weathered face solemn. In the flickering light, "We gather to determine the truth of this man's claim," Natan began, gesturing toward Tomás. "He comes to us as Tomás Vicente, farmer and settler, yet claims the blood of Naiche, son of our great chief Running Water." For nearly an hour, the evidence was presented, the matching symbols on wooden cross and stone pendant, Father Joaquin's journal entries, military records confirming the taking of a chief's infant son. Witnesses spoke of Tomás's innate knowledge of Apache ways, his healing of Wólhózhŭ using methods known only to Running Water's wife, the birthmark that matched the lost child's. Yet doubt remained among some council members. As the debate continued, the old medicine woman, Grey Willow, stepped forward. Words and marks can be falsified, she acknowledged, but the deepest memories cannot. I propose the remembering ceremony. A hushed murmur spread through the gathering. The remembering ceremony was rarely performed, used only in cases where lost tribal members needed to reconnect with forgotten heritage. Natan considered her proposal. It is dangerous for one caught between worlds. His spirit may become lost. His spirit is already caught between worlds, Grey Willow countered. The ceremony will either anchor him in truth or reveal deception. After brief deliberation, the council approved. Preparations began immediately. 4 women constructed a small lodge of bent saplings covered with hides at the edge of the firelight. Inside, a bed of sage and sweetgrass was prepared. Meanwhile, Grey Willow retrieved a small drum from her dwelling, a hand-sized instrument made from a section of hollow cottonwood covered with deer hide, its surface painted with symbols of memory and awakening. "This is the memory drum," she explained, showing it to Tomás. "Its rhythm matches the heartbeat of a newborn child, the time when memory is purest, before words shape thought." Tomás was directed to remove his settler's clothing and don a simple breechcloth. His chest and face were painted with white clay, marked with symbols of his claimed lineage. Finally, he was led to the small lodge and instructed to lie upon the bed of sacred plants. Grey Willow entered with him, bringing the memory drum and a small pouch of medicinal herbs. Wólhózhŭ joined them, his role to anchor Tomás's spirit during the journey backward through time. "You will drink this," Grey Willow said, mixing herbs with water in a ceremonial bowl. "It will open the doors of memory that have been closed since childhood." Tomás accepted the bowl, meeting Wólhózhŭ's eyes briefly before drinking the bitter mixture. The taste was familiar somehow, a memory of a memory. Grey Willow began to tap the memory drum with her fingertips, a gentle, persistent rhythm like distant heartbeats. Wólhózhŭ added a low, melodic chant that seemed to weave through the drumbeats. The effects came swiftly. The lodge walls appeared to breathe in rhythm with the drum. Colors intensified, then gave way to scenes from Tomás's past, recent. Memories at first. His farm, the discovery of Wólhózhŭ in the cave, Father Joaquin's kindness. Then the drumming changed subtly, guiding him deeper. The Franciscan mission appeared, his childhood among the brothers, lessons in Christian doctrine and Spanish language. Deeper still, and the memories became fragmented, disconnected images of a military encampment, soldiers' rough hands, a woman's screams. "Follow the drum." Wólhózhŭ's voice seemed to come from inside Tomás's own mind. "It leads to your beginning." The drum beats matched his racing heart. Suddenly, with breathtaking clarity, new memories emerged, or rather ancient ones, long buried beneath years of imposed identity. A woman's face, beautiful and proud, singing Apache lullabies as she held him to her breast. A strong-featured man running water, lifting him toward the stars in a blessing ceremony. The warmth of a fire in a winter camp, surrounded by family speaking Chiricahua. Dawn broke over the encampment as Tomás emerged from the memory lodge, his eyes reflecting. A profound transformation. The remembering ceremony had continued through the night, with Grey Willow's memory drum guiding him through forgotten years of his earliest childhood. He had remembered his mother's face, his father's voice, the songs and stories of his people. The tribal council awaited him at the rekindled council fire. As Tomás approached, those gathered could see the change in him. He walked differently now, his movements more fluid, his bearing that of an Apache warrior rather than a Mexican farmer. "Speak what you have remembered," Natan commanded. "I am Neche, son of running water and sweetgrass woman," Tomás replied in flawless Chiricahua. "I was born during the planting moon when the great star crossed the sky. My father held me up to the 4 directions and named me Who Walks Between Worlds. My mother sang to me of coyote and eagle while she wove baskets beside our winter fire." He continued, recounting details of Apache life no outsider could know. Specific, Ceremonies, family relationships, sacred stories told only within the tribe. With each memory shared, the council members' expressions shifted from skepticism to wonder. "The memory spirits have spoken," Grey Willow declared. "This is Naiche, lost son of our people." A murmur of agreement spread through the gathering. Natan rose slowly, retrieving a headband decorated with a single eagle feather, the mark of Running Water's bloodline. "Naiche has returned to us," he announced, placing the headband on Tomás's brow. "The son of Running Water stands among his people once more." The celebration that followed was cut short by a shout from the perimeter guards. Riders approached. A dozen warriors led by Black Knife, their faces painted for confrontation. The camp mobilized swiftly, warriors moving to protective positions around the elders and children. Tomás stood with Wólhózhŭ beside Natan, as Black Knife's party halted at the edge of the encampment. "You harbor a pretender and a traitor," Black Knife called out, remaining mounted on his pony. "I come to claim them for justice." "You find no pretender here," Natan replied. "Only Naiche, son of Running Water, whose identity has been confirmed by council and ceremony." Black Knife's expression hardened. "Convenient ceremonies that see what you wish to see." He surveyed the gathered. "Tribe, many among you know me as a true defender of our people, one who fights rather than compromises, who would rather die proud than live by the White Eye's permission." His words resonated with some of the younger warriors, whose faces showed conflicted loyalties. "The son of Running Water brings valuable knowledge of both worlds," Wólhózhŭ countered. "Strength comes in many forms, Black Knife, not just in war paint and raids." "Let the people decide," Black Knife proposed, "as tradition demands when leadership is disputed." From behind him, a warrior came forward, bearing a staff unlike any Tomás had seen, a length of lightning-struck oak, its surface burned black, adorned with red and white feathers, a cougar's tooth, and a small silver medallion clearly taken. "From a Spanish bit, the challenge staff," Wólhózhŭ whispered to Tomás, "an ancient way to settle leadership disputes without bringing war to the entire tribe." Black Knife dismounted, taking the staff. "I invoke the right of challenge. If this man is truly Naiche, son of Running Water, then he claims right to lead his father's band. I contest this right." He thrust the staff into the ground before Tomás. "Accept or admit you are a coward, hiding behind old men's protection." Tomás felt the weight of all eyes upon him. He understood enough of Apache ways. Now to know this was a pivotal moment. To refuse would confirm suspicions that he was an impostor. To accept meant facing Black Knife in trials he barely comprehended. "The challenge requires 3 tests," Natan explained. "Strength, endurance, and wisdom. It is not entered lightly. Death can result." "I have no desire to lead," Tomás replied. "That is not the question," Black Knife sneered. "Do you accept the challenge of your blood right, or do you surrender it?" As Wólhózhŭ placed a hand on Tomás's arm. "This was inevitable. Black Knife cannot allow Running Water's son to live unless you prove yourself by their standards. The challenge at least gives you a chance." Tomás studied the challenge staff, its feathers stirring in the morning breeze. He thought of his father, a leader who sought peace through strength, not war for its own sake. "I accept the challenge," he said, grasping the staff. "Not for leadership, but for truth." "It begins at moonrise," Black Knife declared, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Prepare yourself, farmer. Tonight we learn what you're truly made of." The hours before moonrise passed in swift preparation. Wólhózhŭ and Grey Willow instructed Tomás in the rituals and rules of the challenge, while other tribal members prepared the sacred circle where the trial would take place. "The challenge staff represents the 3 tests you will face," Wólhózhŭ explained. "The black wood is strength, the feathers endurance, the cougar's tooth wisdom." "What form will these tests take?" Tomás asked. "That is Black Knife's right to determine as challenger," Grey Willow answered, "but they will push you to your limits, physically and spiritually." As dusk approached, Natan summoned Tomás to his lodge. The elder sat cross-legged before a small fire, a bundle wrapped in deer hide beside him. "Before you face the challenge, you should carry something of your father's," he said, unwrapping the bundle to reveal a knife unlike any Tomás had seen. Its handle was carved elk antler, darkened with age and use. The blade, though old, gleamed with careful maintenance, its edge honed to perfect sharpness. Along the blade's spine ran a line of small symbols, the same markings found on Tomás's. "Wooden cross and the stone pendant, running water's knife," Natan said reverently. "A chief's weapon, passed through 7 generations of your bloodline. It was recovered after the raid that took you, hidden away in hope that someday his son might return to claim it." Tomás accepted the knife with trembling hands. Its weight felt familiar somehow, as if his hand remembered what his mind could not. "I don't know if I'm worthy of this," he admitted. "The knife will decide," Natan replied. "If your heart is true to your blood, it will serve you well. If not," the old man shrugged, "a blade knows its rightful owner." Moonrise came with ceremonial drumming. The entire tribe gathered around a circular clearing where 4 fires burned. At the cardinal directions, Black Knife waited at the circle's center, his body painted for war, wearing only a breechcloth and moccasins. Tomás entered similarly attired, Running Water's knife secured at his waist. Natan stood at the circle's edge, raising the challenge staff. "Tonight we witness the trial of blood. Black Knife challenges Nietzsche's right to his father's place. Among us, he drove the staff into the ground. While this staff stands, the challenge continues." Black Knife stepped forward. "The first test is strength," he announced. "We will lift stones until one can lift no more." The test began with a stone the size of a man's head. Each lifted it easily. The second stone required both hands. By the 5th stone, a boulder requiring full-body strength, many warriors watching began to murmur in appreciation of the contestants' power. When the 8th stone was dragged forward, a massive rock that 2 warriors struggled to position, Black Knife faltered slightly. With supreme effort, he lifted it to waist height before setting it down with controlled dignity. Tomás approached the stone, feeling the weight of the tribe's scrutiny. He had built his farmhouse alone, moved countless rocks to clear fields. Drawing on that experience and something deeper, ancestral strength flowing through his blood, he lifted the stone to his chest and held it there for 3 heartbeats before returning it to earth. A cheer rose from the spectators, rose from the Black Knife's face darkened. "The second test is endurance," he declared. "We run until one falls." What followed was a grueling circuit around the tribal territory, across streams, up rocky slopes, through thorny brush. Hours passed as the 2 men ran side by side, neither yielding. Dawn approached, both gasping for breath, legs trembling with exhaustion. As they crested a final ridge, Black Knife stumbled on loose stones. Tomás could have pressed his advantage, but instead paused, allowing his opponent to regain his footing. "I need no farmer's charity," Black Knife spat. "It is not charity to honor a worthy opponent," Tomás replied. They finished the run together, collapsing at the circle's edge to the tribe's thunderous approval. After a brief rest, Black Knife rose for the final test. "The test of wisdom," he announced, retrieving a covered basket. "Choose correctly, and you prove your judgment worthy of leadership." He removed the cover, revealing 2 identical gourds. One contains water, the other deadly poison. "Choose which to drink," murmurs spread through the crowd. This was no traditional test of wisdom, but a gamble with death. Tomás studied the gourds, then looked at Black Knife's face, reading the subtle satisfaction there. "You've rigged this test," Tomás said quietly. "Both contain poison." Black Knife's expression flickered with surprise before hardening. "Prove it." Tomás drew Running Water's knife. With a swift movement, he sliced both gourds open, spilling their contents onto the earth. The liquid sizzled on the ground, killing the grass it touched. A true test of wisdom is not tricking your opponent, but finding a path where both may live, Tomás declared, sheathing the knife. My father sought peace through strength, not victory through deception. A profound silence fell over the gathering. Black Knife stood rigid, his deception exposed before the entire tribe. By Apache law, attempting to kill during a ritual challenge was a grave offense against both man and spirit. Natán stepped forward, his face severe. Black Knife has broken sacred trust. The challenge is forfeit. For a moment it seemed Black Knife might reach for his weapon. Instead he locked eyes with Tomás. You may have won this day, but the true test comes when the bluecoats push us onto reservations. Will your farmers' compromises save our people then? Not compromise, Tomás replied. Understanding. I've lived in both worlds. I know their strengths and weaknesses. The council will determine Black Knife's punishment, Natán announced. For now, we recognize Naiche, son of running water, as rightful heir to his father's place among us. The tribal members surged forward, many touching Tomás's shoulders in gestures of respect and acceptance. Through the crowd, he caught Wólhózhŭ's proud smile, Grey Willow's approving nod. Later, as the excitement settled, Tomás sat with the elders in Natán's lodge. The discussion turned to what his return meant for the tribe's future. I cannot simply abandon my farm and become as if I never left, Tomás said honestly. Nor would that serve our people best. My value lies in understanding both worlds. What do you propose? Natán asked. Let me serve as a bridge. I can speak to the territorial governor, the military commanders. They know me as Tomás Vicente, a peaceful settler. I can represent our interests while helping them understand Apache ways. Many have tried such paths before, a skeptical elder commented. The white eyes make promises with one hand while taking land with the other. True, Tomás acknowledged. But I bring something new, documented proof of injustice in Father Joaquín's journal, and knowledge of their legal systems. I can fight with their weapons of law and truth. The discussion continued late into the night. By dawn, a consensus emerged. Tomás would maintain his life in both worlds, Apache and settler, using his unique position to advocate for his people's rights. 3 days later, a sacred ceremony marked this new beginning. At its center stood the most revered tribal artifact, the ancient peace pipe, used only for the most significant covenants. Carved from red pipestone and adorned with eagle feathers, the pipe had witnessed treaties and alliances for generations. As tribal members gathered in concentric circles, Natán filled the pipe with sacred tobacco mixed with herbs gathered from the 4 directions. He lit it with an ember from the council fire and drew the first sacred breath before passing it to Tomás. With this smoke, we bind Naiche to his people, Natán intoned. Though he walks in 2 worlds, his spirit remains. Apache. Tomás accepted the pipe, the carved stone bowl warm in his hands. As he drew the sweet, pungent smoke into his lungs and released it toward the sky, he felt a profound connection to the land and people around him, a belonging he had unconsciously sought his entire life. The pipe circled the gathering, even passing to Black Knife, who had been granted leniency in exchange for a pledge of peace. His acceptance of the pipe, though reluctant, signaled a truce, if not true, reconciliation. When the ceremony concluded, Tomás prepared for his return journey. He would go first to Las Cruces to speak with Father Joaquín about beginning negotiations with territorial authorities. Remember, Wólhózhŭ said as they embraced in farewell, you are neither fully Tomás nor fully Naiche now. You are who walks between worlds in truth as well as name. I'll return with the changing moon, Tomás promised. My place is with both my peoples now. As he rode south, the wooden cross and chief's knife both secured against his chest, Tomás reflected on the strange path that had led him here. 7 days ago, he'd been a simple farmer, unaware of his true heritage. Now he carried the hopes of his rediscovered people, along with a deeper understanding of his own divided soul. The Apache healer found chained in a cave had indeed revealed the farmer's true identity, not just to others, but to himself. And in that revelation lay the potential for a new future, where understanding might bridge the ancient divisions between worlds. Ahead, the Thunder Mountains stood against the horizon, silent witnesses to a journey that had only just begun.